Coming up this week on Sporting Journal Radio, the fact that they're changing it due to the success of forward-facing sonar is what made me question it.
You know, we didn't get as thick of ice on the Rainy River as we normally had gotten.
Being a rough fish, there are some big fish out here.
There's always like, hey, what's the catch?
I fish, I hunt, and always will. Broadcasting from the Eau Claire Outdoors Studios. Presented by OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. We're not just a radio show anymore. This is Sporting Journal Radio. Heard on the Sporting Journal Radio Network on 30 stations across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the Dakotas. Also online and downloadable wherever you get your favorite podcast or sportingjournalradio.com, or maybe you're watching this on YouTube. Thank you very much. I'm Bret Amundson. That's Dan Amundson over there. What's up, Dan?
Hey. Good. Hi. I don't remember what you asked. I wasn't trying to do something.
That's all right. David Eckhart's over there. What's up, David?
Hello.
You just keep doing your thing there, Dan. It's all good. We got a good show for you this week. We're going to talk about a couple of things that are going on in our region right now, including efforts to put sturgeon on the endangered species list. We're going to talk about what you can do right now to help stop that effort. There's also been a tournament. There is a tournament that's been going on for over 40 years in Minnesota, and they are changing some of the rules due to advancements in technology like forward-facing sonar. We'll tell you what tournament that is and what changes they've made coming up in a little bit. We'll also talk about our glow trip to Lake of the Woods last week. That was a good time, David.
That was a great time.
Had fun.
Oh, yeah.
Caught some fish. We'll talk about that experience. And we're up there with a veterans group, Memories Made Outdoors. We're going to talk to a couple of the vets here on the show and talk and explain why these types of events are important and why it's good to volunteer for them, support them, put them on, do what you can to help these vets out as often as possible. I got an OnX tip for you that we'll talk about, and some new stuff coming from OnX as well. There's a party coming up at Pheasant Fest we'll tell you about, and a couple of other show news that we'll be explaining here on the show. Dan, are you ready to go with the sponsors?
Yeah, we've got Inver Grove Toyota. The official truck sponsor of Fish Hunt Forever is Inver Grove Toyota. When looking for your new rig, head over to Inver Grove Toyota. The Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic is March 8th, 9th, and 10th at Canterbury Park in Shakopee. Learn more at mndeerclassic.com. Haybell Heights Campground and Resort. Fish out of a snow bear on Devil's Lake. Learn more at haybellheights.com. OnX Hunt, landowner information, public land access, and much, much more. Know where you stand with OnX Hunt. Prairie Sportsman, the new season is underway. Watch episodes anytime at the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel. Lake of the Woods Tourism. Lake of the Woods is the walleye capital of the world. Plan a trip for this winter, spring, or summer at lakeofthewoodsmn.com. And the Midwest Wild Sheep Foundation annual banquet and fundraiser is March 15th and 16th at the Minneapolis Marriott Southwest in Minnetonka. Learn more at midwestwildsheep.com.
Should we give you a little bit more time to read those still? We gave you another second or two. Maybe we'll give you extend them a little bit more.
No.
We'll talk faster then.
No.
Thank you to our sponsors. We really appreciate, in fact, that new truck. Really like seeing it in the driveway out there. We had more people take pictures of that truck than fish at the trip last week.
Yeah, a lot of people stopped to look at it.
Yeah, when we were up at Lake of the Woods, yeah, that's your truck out there? Yep, I had to take a picture of that. Thank you very much. Thank Toyota, because they made a cool truck. Jamie Dittman put a cool wrap on it. And I think we're going to do a contest with that. If you spot that truck somewhere.
You're giving it away?
Nope. Oh. No. No.
No.
No. But we will give away some prizes. If you spot that truck and then post about it on social media and tag us in it, we'll give away some prizes. So we'll have more details about that.
Wow.
Also our bracket challenge and some other contests that we have coming up. But if you want to get a deal on a Toyota, go to Inver Grove Toyota. Use the code FHF. They'll give you a discount on a Tundra. They got a really cool one in the showroom right now. A black one, lifted. It's cool. It's the Tundra Limited like the one I've got. It's just a beautiful, beautiful truck. So go check it out right now at Inver Grove Toyota. Brand new car! That's right. So we heard about this, and we were all together when we heard about this tournament in Osakis. So it's the Osakis Fishing Tournament. It's a Lions Club puts on this tournament there. They've been doing it for a long time, over 40 years. And they had some anglers do really well using forward-facing sonar recently. Last year, I think, maybe?
Yeah.
So a lot of people said, nope, we're not going to fish it unless some changes are made. No. So this year, the club voted that the tournament will be a stringer of 6 fish. 5 must be a minimum of 15 inches or up to 22. one fish can be over 22. We put a lot of time and effort into this decision based on feedback we received from those that fish our tournament and our community. We hope to see you on tournament day. So registration's open for that right now. So it must be, I don't even know what the date of that tournament is. We should look it up. They got a Facebook page is where we got this information from, but it must be a kind of a midsummer tournament because the DNR won't let you release any fish caught in this tournament unless you release all of them. So somebody in the comments complained. I thought there'd be more complaints about only 1 over 22 because that kind of surprised me. I think if you go out there and you catch 5 29-inch walleyes and you can only keep one of them in this tournament. I don't know how big the tournament is. I don't know how big the prizes are or anything like that. And maybe it's just a fun charity tournament, so it's not really a big deal. But, if there was a tournament out there and I was limited, I think I'd be like, come on, man, what the heck? Right?
I mean, kind of, but every keep tournament in Minnesota is going to have the same rule of 1 over 20. So
this isn't a keep tournament.
I get that, but I guess it's the same rule that a lot of other tournaments deal with, so it's not a big deal. And if that's what the majority of people that want to fish it want to do, then I guess that's fine. I mean, majority kind of rules with that, but
sure,
it's, I don't know. I mean, the rules are rules, and that's kind of the deal with any tournament fishing is you deal with the rules put in place by the areas you're fishing. You see the BASS, MLF, NWT, MCC, all these tournaments, you deal with different lakes, different regulations, different states, and some are call, some are no call, blah blah blah. So it's kind of the skill of being a tournament angler is catching the fish that are needed to win that tournament. The guy who catches the 5 biggest walleyes might not win that tournament because that's not how it's structured. And that's just kind of the skill of being a good tournament is making the right tournament angler is making the right decisions based on the circumstances you have. And those are the circumstances that everyone's going to play by. That's what you're going to do. So I could see why there'd be frustration, but at the same time, if that's what the majority of the people participating in it want, then there shouldn't be too many complaints.
Oh, he's been sitting on that response for a while.
Not really. That honestly we kind of knew we were going to talk about this, and that just all came to my head right now. That's not even written down on
not even in your bullet points.
Not even in my bullet points I have here. So,
and I agree with all of that. Really, I mean, it comes down to whatever the tournament wants to do. It's just on face value, it's just kind of surprising. Like, yeah, I used to be able to. It's a catch photo release tournament, so you used to be able to just record every big fish that you caught for the tournament. Sure, I guess if you want to show off your skill and say, no, that's 29 inches, those are for the amateurs. I want some 18s and 19s or 21 and a halves or whatever it is. It makes sense because then you are targeting only fish. And obviously in some places you got red zones and slot limits and things like that where some fish aren't going to count. But I feel like most of those are live weigh-in tournaments versus a CPR tournament. But this is, and I think I could care less how they run the tournament. I think the fact that they're changing it due to the success of forward-facing sonar is what made me question it originally.
Well, let me tell you what's going to happen is people are going to realize that this didn't make a difference in forward-facing sonar. Okay, so people are targeting the big marks on that they see. Now they're just going to do the opposite. Because I think that's the point of this argument is people are taking their live scopes, their mega live, and they go, okay, there's a small pot of fish, smaller fish. We're not going to catch those. Let's go look for a big one. Well, now they're just going to do the opposite. You're going to go catch your big one, and then, okay, well, there's a big one. Well, we already got a 30-incher. We're not going to beat that, so let's go find that pot of eaters. It's still the forward-facing sonar guys are still going to have the advantage on that.
Right.
And so I think this will be a common trend throughout the whole fishing industry is people are going to start to realize once they learn more about this technology, because I've said this before too, the people who are against forward-facing sonar are the people that don't have it.
Yeah.
Once you have it, you realize how it's not a detriment, how it's not a magic fish catcher like you like to say, Bret, and that it's a fun tool that is helpful in catching fish. Yes, there's no doubt, but it's not going to kill our sport. It's not going to ruin fishing.
Yeah.
It's pretty entertaining if you know what you're looking at, and I think it'll be a common trend that people are going to try to make these rules. They're going to try to make loopholes to try to make it an even playing field. But you know what? If you want an even playing field, Put a motor restriction on things. I don't know how many times I've been on a big lake and been limited getting to a spot I'd like to get to because I don't have a big enough boat. So I'm limited everything to birch bark canoes and twigs with horsehair line. If you really want to make things even, or put flat regulations on everything, on what you can use and on boats and motors. Or if you don't like live scope, you don't like all that fun stuff, enter a kayak tournament or something.
Yeah.
It's like I get it. I get you're frustrated with it. It's a change. People have always been frustrated with change, but here we are.
Well, I think as long as it's not you're not destroying the fishery by using the technology. I think that's where the line gets drawn. I know some muskie tournaments put a ban on forward-facing sonar, and when muskies are deep, you can find them, and they're usually they can be cooperative in that sense, and you might be damaging the fishery a little bit. But if they're targeting these walleyes in deep water where barotrauma could be an issue, or it's a catch photo release, so there is some fish handling time. But usually that's pretty quick. I mean, you take a picture, you measure it, you put it back.
It's
usually not too long. Then I don't think technology should be an issue. You're not throwing a net. Excuse me. You're not throwing a net out there to net these fish. You still have to catch them. As we all own live scopes, we all know that it doesn't automatically mean you're going to catch that fish. So
the live scope doesn't kill the fish.
Right.
The fisherman kills the fish.
Yeah.
Like people try to. Not that I want to bring this word back into discussion, but people have brought up crossbows and tried to compare that to live scope with me. Like, you catch a fish with live scope, the fish isn't dead.
Right.
The fisherman makes the conscious effort once that fish is in your hand to kill it. Where you hunt with a crossbow, you pull the trigger with a crossbow, what it hits dies. So there's a difference there, and it's you can catch and release all day long. Yes, there's hooking mortality, there's barotrauma, there's delayed mortality, all these fun things we've been talking about, but it's still it's where the ethical angler needs to come in, and you got to be smart about what you're doing.
100%. And that is something I thought there'd be more comments about this change on this Facebook post. In fact, the last Facebook post, they limited the comments. They closed the comments. So they obviously were getting some negative feedback. But the previous post, people complained more about the fact that it's a catch photo release tournament versus a live weigh-in, which my mind exploded when I heard that, because they're like, oh, there's hundreds of floating dead fish after this tournament. And some of the officials with the Lions Club said, I've never seen one dead fish. There's never been a picture. And sure, you might get some delayed mortality or hooking mortality. You might kill a few fish, but a few fish in a CPR tournament versus all the fish. I don't know how many anglers fish in that tournament, but if they catch 6 fish and kill them all, then you have 100% mortality and all the fish caught in that tournament versus the CPR. So I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, I can see it though. I see both sides of the argument with CPR tournaments, and it comes into a time of year thing too. Are you dealing with hot water? Are you dealing with deep depths?
Sure.
Stuff like that. And there can be not a lot. And I want to put this out before I make this point. I'm not against CPR tournaments. We run a CPR tournament. I think it's great. I like the concept of it. I think it's cool that sometimes you can work around slot limits, stuff like that, and release some fish. But I understand why people aren't always a big fan of them, because there is, you got to take fish donkey, for example. And again, I love fish donkey, but you still got to take 2 pictures of the fish, measure it, and then a release video. There, times that can lead to a fair amount of fish handling. And so you might have fish dying. And so it's kind of one of those, would you rather feed the pelicans or feed some people? Oh, for sure. You keep the fish, you can bring them home, or sometimes tournaments donate them to a food shelter or something like that, a food shelf. There's just a picnic shelter full of food. Yeah. Fence, chain link fence around it. Yeah.
Protect the food.
Well, from the pelicans that might eat it.
Food is sheltering in place.
You know what I was trying to say. Yeah, no. This went my whole argument, but and not even an argument, because again, I like CPR tournaments. Yeah. But the other thing too is the whole permitting process with tournaments. The DNR takes into account, as far as I understand, that's part of why you permit tournaments. So the DNR takes into account, okay, anglers are going to be out here. There's going to be a lot of mortality on these fish. The way I've understood it, I could be wrong. Somebody from the DNR, somebody with more tournament experience can correct me on this. But it's my understanding they kind of look at, okay, there's a tournament on this lake. We're basically going to account for these fish to die, even if they're trying to put them back after a weigh-in or no weigh-in, whatever there might be. So that, you're going to have, it sucks to see fish die all the time. But at the same time, the DNR's keeping an eye on that. And, there's people that are going to scream, well, the DNR is stupid, whatever. But they're keeping an eye on that. So they're not going to let 75 tournaments happen on one lake. And
correct. They do limit the number of tournaments per body of water.
Right. So they're taking that into account. And so I can see why, like, weigh-ins are fun, and you keep the fish, you put them to use instead of letting them just float around. So
not only do they limit the number of tournaments, but depending on what time of year your tournament is, they will limit the amount of catching and releasing and that you can do. So some tournaments after a certain date. So I looked at that post on that Lions Club Facebook page. They talk about, we had 4 options here. 1, go to live weigh-in and kill every single fish, because after a certain day of the year, we can't keep fish for the weigh-in and then release them because they're going to die later when the water's warmer, etc.
That's not especially with walleyes, that's not a smart choice hardly ever.
Right. Or live weigh-in, move the tournament earlier so you can do a live weigh-in and release fish, go to a CPR tournament, and then the last one was, or quit the tournament that we've been doing for over 40 years. And it sounds like Dan, you thought some people were starting to do that anyway, just because of the headaches that some of these things were causing.
To quit tournaments?
Yeah.
Well, I could see it happening. I mean, I don't think there's tournaments folding because of that, but I could see it start to happen.
Well, and it's all to protect the fisheries, but you start to get more and more regulations, and then.
We boring you, David?
Yeah.
Wow. You can
eat a little bit of conversation.
Eat a little bit of pizza and I get sleepy.
Go home if you want, I guess. Like, nobody's forcing you to be here.
Well, we should change topics anyway. That's a pretty interesting one, though. So the Osakis Lions Club fishing tournament on their Facebook page is where we're getting some of that information from. All right.
Let us know your opinions.
Absolutely.
Or if you have any information on DNR permitting, stuff like that. But let us know your opinions on that kind of stuff.
It doesn't really, I think whatever option you choose, not everybody's going to be happy.
Never.
There's no way to please everybody. So no matter what the option is, someone's going to complain.
David coming through with a home run comment right there.
Been sitting on that one for a while, haven't you?
So a video to watch when we come back. It's actually a pretty important topic right now involving sturgeon and the fact that Center for Biological Diversity is trying to put them on the endangered species list, and they're talking about it in Wisconsin, but it'll affect everybody, including you anglers in Minnesota that like to target these fish on St. Croix, the Mississippi, Rainy River, things like that. So we'll talk about that when we come back. Don't forget, Friday and Saturday, March 15th and 16th, is the Midwest chapter of the Wild Sheep Foundation banquet at the Marriott Southwest Hotel in Minnetonka. They got prime rib. They got a bunch of other food. They've got some auction items, including 3 live auctions featuring North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wyoming state bighorn sheep tags, along with world-class big game hunts throughout North America, Africa, Europe, Asia, fishing, all of this stuff. They're going to give away 2 youth South Dakota statewide turkey licenses this year. So the Midwest chapter of the Wild Sheep Foundation annual banquet, Friday and Saturday, March 15 and 16 at the Minneapolis Marriott Southwest Hotel in Minnetonka. Ice fishing season is here. This winter, plan a trip to Devils Lake, North Dakota. Not only will you have the chance to catch their legendary perch, but this year, Haybale Heights has been catching big walleye after big walleye. And they're doing it from a mobile, comfortable snow bear. No matter how cold it is outside, you're warm and toasty on the inside. Learn more and book a trip today at haybaleheights.com. That's haybaleheights.com. We're back. This is Sporting Journal Radio. Thanks for watching or listening wherever you're getting this show. I'm Bret Amundson along with Dan Amundson and David Eckhardt. And this is our recommended video to watch on YouTube. Just saw this video from the Hunting Public. Came out about a week or 2 ago. And it's about sturgeon spearing in Wisconsin. And that is one of the hardest things to film. I've gone over there and tried to film sturgeon spearing a number of times. And it is hard. First of all, it's real hard to be successful. And it's hard to film. And they actually did a pretty good job of it and speared some sturgeon. But the best part about the interview or the video was an interview at the beginning of it with a DNR employee. I don't even know if they said what her name was. I was kind of surprised they did unless I missed it, and I might have, but they did a whole stand-up video interview with this DNR employee, and her name wasn't listed at all. And like Dan mentioned before the show, maybe she didn't want it to be. I don't know. But they talked about this push from the Center of Biological Diversity, trying to get sturgeon on the endangered species list. Now, they petitioned U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the way that works is they petition, and then U.S. Fish and Wildlife opens up a public comment period for 60 days on it. I think they look at it and determine a few things, and then there's a 60-day period. So I think it's June 30th is when the 60-day period will open up. Now, why I'm telling you this is because it's going to be your job and your job and your job and my job to tell U.S. Fish and Wildlife that we don't want sturgeon on the endangered species list. They used to be a lot more widespread, of course. There were some things that have limited their ability to travel, such as dams, river pollution, things like that. But when you look at an area like the Rainy River, after they cleaned up the river, sturgeon came back on their own. There were some protections. There's a tight slot on them right now. They're tightly regulated, just like they are on Winnebago. And Winnebago is one of the healthiest sturgeon fisheries in the world. In fact, we've learned a lot about sturgeon because of the sturgeon spearing season on Winnebago. States and game management agencies from all over the world travel to Wisconsin to see how they manage sturgeon there, so they can manage sturgeon better where they're from. In fact, they get like a lot of the eggs and what they need to stock sturgeon and grow more sturgeon in their areas from Winnebago. They've actually set up a Spear Act. Mike Gallagher and Representative Glenn Grothman announced legislation to protect the annual sturgeon spearing on the Winnebago system. The bill, called the Sturgeon Protected and Exempt from Absurd Regulations Act, which I think is great, otherwise known as SPEAR, would proactively exempt the state of Wisconsin from any listing of lake sturgeon under the Endangered Species Act, which is great. So now you need to contact if you're from Minnesota, get a hold of your state rep now and tell them, let's do the same thing. Minnesota does need to be more proactive, because this is the same thing they did to wolves in the state of Minnesota. The Humane Society of the United States went around and filed petitions and sued U.S. Fish and Wildlife until they got a judge that agreed with them, and now wolves are back in the endangered species list. And now they're trying to do the exact same thing with sturgeon, and this is how it starts. If they get this passed, they're not going to stop there, I promise. They're going to move from fish to fish, from animal to animal. Anything we're out there hunting and fishing, they're going to try to ban it for us. And this is all how it starts. So we need to be proactive about it. And I would like to see the Minnesota DNR be more proactive about the wolf regulations as well, too. They've said many times their hands are tied, but I think they need to be louder and speak louder to the United States Fish and Wildlife Service about getting game management back in the hands of the state management agency. So check it out. It's the Hunting Public had a video called Spearing Giant Lake Sturgeon, and a nice little clickbaity title in parentheses, for the last time ever. Find it on their YouTube channel right now. They got some cool spawning footage. It's really neat over there in the spring. You can get right up next to all these sturgeon in the water. I mean, within feet of them, and see just piles of sturgeon, probably up by like the Rapid River up on the... Hey, David, we came up with a new Onyx tip while we were up at Lake of the Woods while we were up there. Yeah. So here's my tip for you. If you are going out to fish on a lake and you know you're going to be traveling in and out onto the lake and off the lake, back and forth, maybe coming out in the dark like we did at Lake of the Woods last week, I run a track on my Onyx app. And then when we headed back out in the dark, I hooked up my phone to my truck and ran the Onyx CarPlay feature, and I was able to follow that track just like a GPS.
Worked great.
Out onto the ice. Anyway,
especially because there were some other guys that just put a waypoint to where they were trying to go, and there's one little jog off the main road that we had to take, and they missed it and wound up on the wrong road Canada. In the middle of nowhere.
Not quite in Canada, but yeah. So there's a little tip for you. If you're going to be driving out doing some ice fishing, and especially going to be driving out in the dark, run a track on your Onyx app the first time you do it during the daylight, and then run your CarPlay, and you can follow it just like a GPS next time you drive out there. All right, more Lake of the Woods talk when we come back.
Lake of the Woods, the walleye capital of the world, is calling out to you. From the northwest angle to the South Shore and Rainy River, this is the Midwest's #1 ice fishing destination. Walleyes, sauger, perch, northern pike, and eelpout. The fishing on Lake of the Woods is like a world of its own. Experience the most amazing fishing through one of the many full-service resorts featuring heated fish houses, ice transportation, meal plans, and sleeper fish house options. For more information, go to lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
Now we're going to head up to Lake of the Woods, check in with Joe Henry from Lake of the Woods Tourism to talk about our trip up there last week, find out what ice conditions are like right now, and maybe get a little sneak peek at the Rainy River. Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It sounds like you guys had a really good trip.
You know, we always have a lot of fun up there. A glow is a great time. Riverbend is a good time. We caught fish. Yeah, fishing was a little tough, but, you know, like I like to tell people, even when fishing is tough, you're at Lake of the Woods, you're still generally catching fish. It's just, you know, might be a little bit slower.
I mean, we do laugh about it because, like one guide put it, he goes, yeah, you know, even when fishing's a little bit tough up at Lake of the Woods, it's still better than anywhere in the state. And, you know, that's with all due respect, you know, it's from a Lake of the Woods guide. But, you know, the point of the matter is that, you know, even if you had a front come through and stuff and it might have slowed the fishing down a little, you still brought in some nice buckets of fish, walleyes and saugers, and I get some tullabees and
there were a couple burbits and we caught a couple perch. And I mean, we brought in our limit the first day. Yep. We worked for them a little bit in both days, and we fished in, I think we were in 24 feet of water or 22 feet of water. I guess we were somewhere right around there. And I had a slot fish up to the ice both days. I just, my skills were lacking apparently. David wasn't quick enough to come over and help me.
I watched the first one fall off on the ice.
Yeah, typical bad angler blames his net man.
I've got to blame somebody.
You know, it's funny too because when you talk, well, let's see, was it 22 or 24? It's just a matter of how far you got your transducer hanging down.
Well, that's exactly right too. But I know mine said 21.9, and we had almost 2 feet of ice. I think that we were on too. So however you want to look at it like that, but.
Well, Bret, that's a really good point you just said, though. And, you know, I mean, obviously, ice conditions, we always say this. Every ice road can be different. But right now, there's spots up there where some of our resorts are fishing that there's 2 feet of ice. And, you know, conditions up at Lake of the Woods, it's still winter up at the border. It's not spring yet. Yep, we've had some warm weather just throughout the year and stuff. But, I mean, you know, there's still really good ice. We got wheelhouses going out. We got 1-ton trucks on many roads, not all. You know, every road's different, but it's still game on. And, you know, with our extended seasons, you can have fish houses out through the month of March 31st on Lake of the Woods because we're border water. You know, you can have we have an extended ice fishing season for walleyes and saugers through April 14th. And our pike season never closes. So if you still want to get up ice fishing, or you haven't been ice fishing yet because it's been a weird warm year, you know, for most of the Midwest, you could still get up to Lake of the Woods and have an incredible trip. I will tell you this, and this is no BS. I've had many resorts and many guides tell me that they believe this is one of the best ice fishing years they've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, there's a few reasons for that maybe, but we did see a couple of really good buckets from some of the angles. You know, Riverbend had a bunch of people out, and including some of us from Aglow. They had a veterans group there called Memories Made Outdoors. In fact, we're going to hear from some of those guys coming up later in the show. And there were some nice fish. Even Mark Smith, I think Mark's daughter, Harper, caught the biggest walleyes, multiple out of most of the groups. So, and I don't know how she was fishing. I think Mark caught one didn't he catch one on the original Al's Goldfish or something? And then, you know, our first day, the dead stick method was definitely the better option. And then the next day when the bite kind of shut off a little bit, it seemed like reaction bites with like jigging wraps is what I was catching them on the second day. So,
well, you know, isn't that fun though? I mean, isn't that part of the fun?
Oh, yeah.
Experiment. And watching your electronic steel fish reacting, whoever's fishing with you, trying to work it out and say, hey, man, you know, I'm going to use a bigger spoon with a rattle. Why don't you use a smaller spoon? And why don't we have Danny do a rip and wrap? And let's just see what they're going on, you know?
Yeah, it was fun, and we did try out some different things. It was David and I fishing last week up there, and it was fun to try different things. And we'd text some of the other houses, how's it going for you guys, you know, and find out. And we actually spent the night in one of the sleepers, and I know that the night bite isn't always the greatest at Lake of the Woods, but the way I looked at it is you're not going to catch them sitting in your cabin or in the restaurant back on shore, and there's always a chance to catch a giant anytime you're on Lake of the Woods. But I really wanted to catch a burbot. That was kind of my whole goal. So David and I had some of the big nasty jigs on, and we were pounding the bottom, and then slept with the rattle reels down all night. And the house next to us got the burbot.
Yep.
We struck out. We marked a couple fish, but we couldn't get them to bite. But there was a number of burbots caught actually. Some during the day, some at night. So you just never know what you're going to catch up there, Joe.
You know, I'll tell you, it's true. And, you know, the other thing I'll tell you, too, is I was talking to one of our resort owners up at the Northwest Angle, And I spoke to somebody down on the south end too. They made the same comment, how clear the water is.
Yeah.
They were seeing down about 8 feet on Lake of the Woods. This is stained water. Normally that is not the norm. And, for that reason, one of the guides commented that, you're getting fish throughout the day and stuff. But he said he believes that the lower light hours of morning and evening were a little bit better because it was more of a traditional walleye bite with a clear water. It's interesting, isn't it? And, you talk about, why, like last year, I really just want to send some of these fishing reports to all the Facebook trolls from last year who said the lake's fished out, there's no fish left, there's too much fishing pressure, and you know who you are. You know who you are, and you should call Sporting Journal Radio and just apologize publicly. Because this year, not only is there big numbers of fish, but the fish are nice saugers, nice walleyes. Now, where were those fish? Now, and all these experts, where were those fish? And I'll tell you, I don't know if this has anything to do with it or not, but back in 2014, we had an 80-year rain event, and the Rainy River was just ripping trees and logs were going down. And when that happened, that basin bite slowed down, and then all of a sudden, our guides up at the Northwest Angle were catching bigger walleyes up in the islands of Ontario when they're guiding customers. And I think that big blast of water through there pushes some of that forage, north, because that's where the current's flowing. It's going north to the Angle, and then it's going northeast to Kenora where the dam is. Now, with that being said, the summer of 22, just a year and a half ago, we had record-breaking high water. There was more water pushing through that system than ever. And all of a sudden, last year wasn't the greatest ice fishing year. Well, could that be part of the reason? And now that basin's just starting to come back again. I don't know if that's it or not, but the bottom line is those fish are on that South Shore. I tell you what, I shouldn't tell anybody this. You think ice fishing's good now? Those fish are tight, pretty tight to shore too.
Yeah.
How do you think that the Minnesota fishing opener is going to be?
Oh yeah. Well, and we were only a couple miles out. Maybe I shouldn't be giving away exact locations, but we weren't very far out, and we were catching fish this year up there.
22 to 24 feet, that's about right,
Yeah.
I don't think saying a couple miles out on Lake of the Woods is giving away an exact location. There's a lot of water there.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, I know good ice out there. Ice fishing will continue for a while. In fact, it'll probably be like it was a couple of years ago when we were up there for the fishing tournament on the Rainy River. There were guys ice fishing at the same time as we were open water fishing. And we went down and checked Birchdale before we left last week, and there was some open water to the east and some open water pockets down towards Frontier. So it could be some early open water opportunities up there this year, Joe.
Yeah, that river, we didn't get as thick of ice on the Rainy River as we normally had gotten. I think it's, when it goes, it's probably going to go quicker. And, there is some open water pockets to the east of Birchdale, like you said. And, so I think when it rolls, it's going to go good. And, this is one of those years we could have people full-fledged ice fishing out on the lake. And, we got boats on the Rainy River hitting accesses. The other thing, too, is if that does happen with the river where the ice, when it goes out pretty quick because it's not so thick and such. It could be nice, too, because you could have multiple accesses open up at the same time or very close to the same time. And that makes it just easier because you're dividing up the traffic. Not everybody's going out of just one access.
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to it April 9th and 10th, the SJR 500 third annual Fish Donkey 2-day fishing tournament. And Joe, I know that you'll be there. And if people want to learn more about Lake of the Woods right now and where they can book a trip and things like that, get more information, what should they do?
2 places, Lake of the Woods Tourism's Facebook page and, of course, our website, and that is lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
Don't miss the 2024 Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic, presented by Select Heartland Chevy Dealers at Canterbury Park in Shakopee, March 8th, 9th, and 10th. This year's Classic features top hunting celebrities like Pat Nicole Reeve of Driven TV, Melissa Bachman of Winchester Deadly Passion TV, and legendary bow hunter Barry Wenzel. Get your antlers scored, view more than 300 antler entries, and see the latest hunting products, plus a great lineup of lodges and outfitters. Learn more about the Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic, March 8th, 9th, and 10th at Canterbury Park in Shakopee at mndeerclassic.com. All right, thanks, Joe. We're going to stay at Lake of the Woods and play back part of an interview we did with Paul Johnson from Riverbend Resort in a sleeper house last week at Lake of the Woods.
Paul, these are, what, 3 years old, these sleeper houses?
This is the 3rd season that we've used the new sleepers, yep.
All right. Tell me about them a little bit.
So when we built these, we really kind of want to take all the experience and what we've done with our more experienced fleet of sleepers that we have, which are very functional and have worked really well. And we put a little bit more thought into it. So like bunk layout, how can we make the most of the floor plan and the size of the fish house. And so we made some upgrades, fold down table / 5th bed bunk. We went a lot of steel and treated lumber just to get the longevity out of it. So they're built for speed, they're built for comfort. And then, TV with cell service hotspots, you can access, you can stream, depending on who you have for service provider and what's going to work up here. And then, just the ovens, camper ovens, burners, completely wired outlets, LED lighting. Just like I said, built for speed, built for comfort and efficiency. I mean, you're out sleeping and fishing right on the ice.
Efficiency.
See what they did there?
Efficiency. Well, it's nice for us too to have all the outlets because we got all the camera gear and batteries we need to charge, and when it's cold outside, if we're in and out at all, the batteries are draining faster, so it's kind of nice to be able to plug in, and if your people are out here, they can plug their phone in to charge it and cast to the TV there, and you can sleep 4 or 5 people in here. You got 10 holes, so 5 people can fish in here, and it's nice and big, nice and roomy, and like this. I would really like the counter at the end like this. It's out of the way, and it's 2 shelves and another shelf up on top there, so lots of storage area to put your stuff.
And if you can get it up off the floor too, that makes a big difference. Just keeping it in that mid-range for temperature purposes, and even and the new ones fans just to regulate that heat and that circulation, so everyone's comfortable. If you ever slept out on the ice, low is a little cooler, high is a little hotter, but with the fans, it really kind of helps disperse that heat. And we are still running our experienced fleet of sleepers. We call them experienced because they put some seasons out on this lake, and they're very effective and they're very efficient. And we've made some of the upgrades inside of them with the camper ovens and wired for generators and LED lighting, just to be more efficient and have that versatility while you're out on the lake, charging anything you need.
This lake is obviously known for walleye fishing and now sturgeon fishing, but there's been a couple of state records burbot caught out of this lake in recent years.
Correct.
Like, I feel like you keep breaking it on this lake.
Yes. So it was the first one when it first happened. We were just kind of like, oh wow, that's kind of a cool record. And with being a burbot, being a rough fish, there are some big fish out here. And it wasn't very long after that record was broke, another one was caught and broke that record. And whitefish, there was a record whitefish caught out of this end on the U.S. side of Lake of the Woods as well. So known for walleye sauger, but it has been specifically this season a very great mixed bag, and we're seeing a lot more numbers of fish and different species of fish coming around this south side.
I mean, there's big pike, of course, too, and there's been muskies caught down here this year, lake trout caught down here this year, so you never really know what you might catch here at Lake of the Woods. Of course, big lake, part of a river system, so there's a lot of fish species out here. But I'm kind of excited staying here overnight tonight. We got some big glow jigs. We're going to pound the bottom and see if we can't catch a burbot.
Glow it up, and water clarity this year is pretty clean, so anything that's kind of glowing with the darker water, because of that better clarity this year, they can see it out there, and there have been a few caught at night.
Well, we might have to throw a couple rattle reels down too, and we maybe rest our eyes for a little bit.
Take a break from the screen time.
That's right. All right, Paul. Well, thanks for having us up here once again. It's been a good time. We're not done yet, of course, but we're looking forward to fishing tonight and another day tomorrow.
Awesome. Yeah, it's comfortable in here. You guys should sleep well.
I was telling David, I think I'll sleep better out here than I will back there, because I probably would have stayed, in the bar for, till later. And there would have been a lot more activity, and then you go back to your cabin, and then it's harder to go to sleep and wind down. Here we can just kind of relax, fish a little bit.
You can fish until you don't want to fish anymore. Take a nap.
Get up again. I struggle with that. Last couple of times I've stayed overnight in fish houses, when we stay overnight on a lake, I'll lay there and I'll jig from my bed like this, keep one eye open on the electronics. I just struggle to sleep when I'm out here fishing overnight. So we'll see how tonight goes.
That thrill of not knowing what could be lurking underneath.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it's time on the water, right? You want to catch fish, you want a chance to catch a big fish, and obviously this is one of the best places to catch a big walleye. if you're out here, you got to have a line in the water.
You do. Trophy walleye, big pike, sturgeon, those record burbot and whitefish. You never know.
I'm sorry, I'm very distracted looking at the live scope, Paul. I know you're talking over there, but I'm only half listening.
It's like a mosquito to the bug zapper.
Last time I stayed out here, Paul, it was a while ago last time I stayed in a sleeper out here, but after dark, fishing slowed down, which I think a lot of people know that Lake of the Woods is kind of a day bite lake because of the water clarity. But we did catch walleyes after dark, just a handful, but they're all quality fish. Like, they were nice fish. And anytime you're on a lake like this, if you want to be out there, if you want to be out there as much as you can, this is a great opportunity because you might catch that walleye of a lifetime out here. But we caught a handful of walleyes that were all slot fish, and then we caught a burbot that we actually cooked up on the ice in a sleeper house that night. So it was a really cool experience that people can do out here.
Well, absolutely. And Lake of the Woods has not been really known for the strong night bite like some other lakes and more the Clearwater lakes. Mm-hmm. That natural staining of the water does add that extra darkness, and they even say that the main bite times are that 9 to 5, the bank time of fishing. But that doesn't mean that, like you said, that you can't catch fish at night. And if you're not out here trying, you would never know. Mm-hmm. So you're pretty spot on when it comes to that. The opportunity is, if you're there, you could catch one. Yeah. But it's not really that go-to overnight strong bite like some other places.
It's crazy. I remember the first few times I came up here in the winter, and we were coming out kind of after, like right at sunup or a little after, and we were going in right before sunset, and I'm like, why aren't we out there early in the evening? And the more I came up here, the more I understood that the best bite is between those windows. Mm-hmm. You can still catch fish outside those windows, of course. I'm excited to try to catch an eelpout, though, after dark. So we caught plenty of walleyes today and saugers, of course. So we'll see if we can't get one of those Elber bows.
The lawyer, the burbot,
the ling,
the poor man's lobster,
freshwater cod. There's one more that I know of. You know it?
Nope.
Mariah.
The Mariah. Yep.
Let's get one. We've talked many times, whether on our podcast or on some of these videos we've done, about how much work goes into running an ice fishing business up here on Lake of the Woods. It's a lot of work, and I got a good chance to look at the ice out here this year, and it's good solid ice. We got 22 inches or something here, something like that. But when you get off the road, like, it was a real smooth road coming out here, but you get on the sides of it and you got chunks of ice, jagged edges doing this way and going this way and that way and this. You have to, I'd assume anyway, you're taking a plow and you're breaking through some of that ice to make a road. That can't be easy to do.
There's a couple different processes, and I wish Moses was around to part some of them ice breaks like that. It would be so much easier, but there is a lot of physical labor and prep that goes from the start of the season when the ice is first forming. You get those sheets shifting and the wind blowing, and they come together, and they're constantly pulling apart and coming back together until everything is frozen solid. So as we progressively move out, each sheet that formed during that late fall, early winter time frame is throwing a new obstacle at us, and that's how much did it push together, how much are we having to chisel through, saw through, and that's before we even bring the big plow trucks out. So everything's small rig, monitoring ice thickness conditions on a daily basis that early ice season, and then of course as it gets colder, ice gets thicker, we start bringing bigger vehicles out, and the plow trucks we run, big 1 tons with the straight V plow on the front, and those work really well when you're trying to make it through some of that early heave formation. So you kind of come up to it at a slower speed, and you're able to kind of chisel and break away. Some are big, and you got to get out and hand chisel, break them up with grizzly bars, hit them with mauls, whatever you got to do to kind of break that path. And then also that constant search for the easiest way to pass through that type of ice. So this year we haven't had the snow cover, so it's a lot easier to see, to identify, to know where you can go. But most seasons when we have 3 feet of snow, 2.5, 3 feet of snow out on this ice, it covers a lot of that up, and you're kind of wandering around, tromping through that snow, looking for the easiest way to pass through it, doing the ice work, and then moving all this snow. So it is a constant physical get it done just because we want to stay on these fish.
Yeah. Well, and even when you don't have the snow, that brings another challenge. Like you don't have anything to bank the houses with. It's like if it's not one thing, it's another.
And this year we've had to improvise, and we did a lot of construction and repairs on a lot of fish houses and cabins and units at the resort. So this year were able to gather up a bunch of some of the lumber that we had that would span the gaps between the skids to the ice just to block that wind, and that started this early this season as well. But snow is really very important for the banking purpose. Great insulator.
So we're about a year into, or this is the first winter, and so this is the first winter that the new law has been on the book as let's see, how can I say this? So this year is the first year that the new law regarding waste on the ice has been in place, spawning from the whole keep it clean push. How's it been so far?
So, we other resorts are always moving around us, constantly moving around us as well. And, this year be able to see a lot. You don't see near, if any, extra bags or, like in our case, lumber, using that to
blocks
to block winds and for banking houses, making sure that gets picked up because that rule is in place. And you take that extra second because you don't want to get a fine. You don't want to be the person or the place that is doing that. So I think that law has really sparked a different thought process in your ice presence while you're there. If you're up on your own fishing, taking that extra second, do you want to pay the fine, or do you just want to take 5 seconds, grab that bag, do another sweep around, make sure everything is in place? And what really helps is that having it tied to the structure, physically attached to the structure. And we do that on all our portable porta potties that we have out here. It's just extra points to put trash and giving the opportunities to dispose of it properly. And they're connected to the buildings just like they're supposed to. But it's doing great so far.
Good.
Don't forget, Friday and Saturday, March 15th and 16th, is the Midwest chapter of the Wild Sheep Foundation banquet at the Marriott Southwest Hotel in Minnetonka. They got prime rib. They got a bunch of other food. They've got some auction items, including 3 live auctions featuring North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wyoming state bighorn sheep tags, along with world-class big game hunts throughout North America, Africa, Europe, Asia, fishing, all of this stuff. They're going to give away 2 youth South Dakota statewide turkey licenses this year. So the Midwest chapter of the Wild Sheep Foundation annual banquet, Friday and Saturday, March 15 and 16 at the Minneapolis Marriott Southwest Hotel in Minnetonka. Last week, we were at Lake of the Woods at Riverbend Resort for an Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Writers media camp. While we were there, a veterans group came up called Memories Made Outdoors. We're going to learn more about that group right now, including with the owner, Mike Farrell.
Tell me about MMO.
So MMO was founded this year in January of 2024, and we started this organization to simply give back to veterans and first responders. And the goal of that is to provide these men and women that have served, whether it's in the military or in their communities, to give them just a phenomenal experience all over the Midwest region, going to first-class resorts, destination places that are just incredible. And that's just the expectation we have as an organization. We feel that they deserve the best. So with that, we find some of the best guides that have the same mindset we do as an organization, and we try to partner with businesses and resorts and destinations that have that same aspect as well.
Why do you do it?
That's a loaded question. We do it to simply give back. And the hardest challenge we face is to get these men and women to come on the trips because they don't expect anything. And we do it for the camaraderie. We do it as an alternative therapy for them. And with my experience in the nonprofit world for over a decade, I've come to learn that just being blessed with a boat and taking these men and women fishing, it truly helps them. And there's it's an epiphany that happens for them. And it doesn't happen to all of them, but I can attest that it happens to most of them. I mean, even on this trip we were on this week, we've seen some change in a few of the guys. And these guys get around each other. They all have one thing in common. They all signed the dotted line, and they were all willing to sacrifice it. Even for those that serve their communities, you know, our cops, our firefighters, our law enforcement officers, the first responders, they put their lives on the line every day. They're willing to save someone every day. And when they get together, they have a bond. And when you see that, it's like magic, you know, and that's truly why we do it.
Yeah, it gives them a chance to talk to somebody that's had some sort of relatable experience.
Absolutely. And, you know, the reason we do week-long trips typically, like in the summertime, it's a lot easier to do a week-long trip. You get that time in the boat, and you get the time in the wilderness, the outdoors, that fresh air. A few of our board members, myself included, we're civilians. So there's always like, hey, what's the catch? You know, why are you doing this? We got it this week. You know, we experienced some of those questions this week. And for them, it kind of sounds like it's too good to be true, right? So the reason we do those week-long trips, one, it helps them build camaraderie with their brothers. But two, it also gives us an opportunity to build some trust with them as well. And for us, fishing's a gateway. You know, it's a gateway to say, hey, what's up? What do you need? Is there you know, something that's getting to you where you need some help after this trip? We'd love to offer them a resource of some sort. You know, and we have those resources available. I mean, some of our board members are military, some of them are law enforcement, some of them are paramedics. So, and then with that, we have a network of people. We have realtors, we have job placement, you know, we have therapists, things like that, where if they're willing, you know, we're willing to help them.
Who's this?
So this is Timber. Timber is 20 months old. She's our yellow lab. And Timber has been in the boat with me since she was 12 weeks old. And she comes on every trip. And she's been with me since last August was her first trip with another organization that I was with. And she's a boat dog. She loves to fish. She's kind of a bougie girl. She really won't move unless it's a walleye. And Timber's really good with the vets and the first responders that come on our trip. She got a sense to her, and you know, I wouldn't say she's a therapy dog, but naturally she just kind of hangs out and attaches to these guys and gals when they come up, you know. At first I thought it was me, you know, she was just kind of picking someone and hanging out with them, but in my experience with her, she's attached to several different people and just kind of, you know, checks them and gives them a little love. And she's got a place. She's our memories made girl. So, and we're definitely a dog friendly group. So typically on all our trips, we'll have a few pups running around.
She looks very comfortable.
Yeah, I think she's had a couple of long days fishing in the ice houses. So she's knocked out right now.
It's a great thing about Riverbend here is they love dogs, they love labs, and you know, they don't have a problem with you bringing them out to the fish house like that.
No, Timber's Riverbend has been phenomenal. I mean, what a class act they are. I have never met Paul and Brandy before. I met Paul briefly at the ice show this winter, and I gotta say they're second to none. I feel like I've known them forever. They treat us like family, you know. They rolled out the red carpet for us. I mean, great food every day. Literally, you come up, you grab your rods, your Vexilar, and if you don't have them, they have them. And you go out to your fish house. The guides are fantastic. You know, the houses are clean. They're nice houses. The holes are clean, you know, they're warm, everything works. And if you need something, they'll bring it out to you. You know, I mean, we had a Vexlar go down today, and like clockwork, we had a brand new one sitting there waiting for them. So I have nothing but good things to say. They've been fantastic with us. And with that being said, we're coming back next year, and we're going to do it bigger and better. So.
You ever had a pizza delivered to your fish house?
We did today. That was a first.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, you know, right in their fish house, hey, if you want pizza for lunch, just call in an order before 11 and we'll get it out to you. I mean, we had 3 pizzas brought out to us today for lunch. What a riot. Yeah. I don't think I've ever, you know, unless you're in an ice castle and you got your little pizzazz pizza maker, you know, but yeah, I can't say I've ever had fresh pizza delivered. That was definitely a niche thing. Pretty unique.
Caught some fish out there?
Yeah, you know, it was a challenge, of course. We're on a negative bite right now just because of the fronts. But with that being said, we made the best of it. You know, all our vets are going home with a limit of fish. We had a fish fry yesterday. We had some hors d'oeuvres. More importantly, our vets had a great time. You know, it was top notch.
That fish fry, I don't know what they put in that coating, but
and they wouldn't tell me. They wouldn't tell me. I'm like, hey, what'd you guys use? I'm not a big beer batter guy, you know, and I cook my fish very similar, you know, but because I like to taste the fish,
right.
You know, and yeah, whatever they use for their mix, boy, it's good. It was outrageous. Good stuff.
Yeah.
You know, again, that's part of our mission is picking places that are incredible and places we can make memories for these men and women because, again, it's our mission that they deserve the best. And Riverbend has definitely provided that and gone above and beyond that.
Tell me about some of the vets that you got with.
So we have 6 vets on this trip. One of them's a first responder as well. The age range is anywhere from the 80s down to the 40s. We got a mix of some Vietnam era veterans and some younger Afghan vets and whatnot. But this crew was, you know, the latter. They were the older generation and very laid back. A good group of guys, and they did a phenomenal job out there. You know, and no complaints. You know, they just came out and fished. The best part that I like about these old-timer guys is the jaw-jacking. You know, you could just sit back, whether you're in a boat or in a fish house or even just in the lodge. You know, you're sitting there hanging out and just listening to stories, you know, and then they start BSing each other and start poking the bear a little bit. Well, you're a Marine, and well, you're a Navy, and well, I was your Uber, you know, and they get going on each other, and at the end of that comes back to that camaraderie thing, you know. The guys that we had up here all served multiple years. I mean, 4+, most of them. Some of them multiple tours. You know, some of them it's affected them quite a bit mentally, and some of them they can talk about it. You know, for a couple of the guys that, you know, were a little rough around the edges and a little anxious when they got here, tonight was a totally different story. It's part of that magic. You know, it's just that little bit of time and a little bit of trust with their brothers and a little bit of camaraderie, and then they start to open up a little bit. A couple of beers helps too.
Tell me about Bill.
Bill is awesome. So Bill and I are very close. Bill's a Vietnam Marine. He was a Huey crew chief, and he worked on OV-1 Broncos. And Bill and I met back in 2017. We've known each other about 8 years, and he's like grandpa to me, or dad, I guess. You know, that guy is tough as nails. You know, he lives close to me. He lives 15 minutes from me, and we watch him. We keep an eye on him. His daughter lives down in Arizona, and she'll text me and say, "Hey, keep an eye on Dad." You know, I said, I can't keep up with him half the time. You know, half the time he's on our home lake. He's got his own little boat. You know, he's got a little 16-foot Lund with a 25 on it, and he's out fishing for perch and walleyes. And the dude's a stick. I mean, 80 years old, and he was wheeling them today and yesterday. And, you know, he loves to fish. And more importantly, what I love about Bill is he loves to give back as well. He's been on several trips with me. I would call him more of an ambassador. You know, he can really help me work with some of these men and women that, you know, might face some challenges. And he's dialed in, and he's not scared to talk to him. He's pretty upfront. He's a no nonsense guy, you know, but he's compassionate too, you know, and he's very, very generous. He's been a big supporter of me ever since I met him, you know, through my endeavors and whatnot. And I love the guy to death. You know, he's, like I said, he's like grandpa to me.
And then tell me about JT.
So JT I met, it was 2018, 2019, around that period. We did a trip up to Menaki, Ontario, and it was kind of a primitive fish camp type thing. This was with a different organization, and we were on a small lake. I think it was called Signet Lake. You know, it was up in the middle of nowhere, and beautiful lodge, but it was August, and it was god awful hot. I mean, we're talking record-breaking highs for Ontario, you know, flirting with 100 degrees.
Oh boy.
And I think there was, you know, 9 or 10 vets on that trip. I was up there as a volunteer guide. I didn't know anything about the lake, so I wasn't really a guide. I was learning. Well, these guys had as much information as I did. And JT walked in, and I'm like, man, that dude, he commands some respect, you know, and I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him in a boat just because how they had us paired up and whatnot, but talked to him a little bit after, and we just kind of kept in touch. And you know, thank God for social media. There are good parts of it. Mm-hmm. And JT reached out a couple weeks ago, and he's like, man, dude, congratulations. Looks like you're doing good things. He's like, hey, I'm retired now, and I'm onto some different things. I'm out of the service, and 26 years, multiple tours, combat vet, you know, he's got a lot under his belt, and he's a pretty well-rounded guy. You know, he's a Wisconsin guy. That'd probably be the only iffy thing I'd say about him. You know, I don't know if he's a Packer fan, but that kind of runs true and true, you know.
It's Eau Claire, though, right?
So Eau Claire. So, he kind of...
He's not too far.
Yeah, I mean, we might be able to, you know, import them, but...
you can bring some of the beer and sausage over and some of the cheese.
Yeah, some of that cheese, you know. I mean, they got a couple of good things going for them. But, you know, JT's a stand-up guy, and we had an opening on this trip, and I'm like, you know what? We had a really rough time on that trip just with the weather and the conditions, you know. I mean, 89 degrees overnight. Yeah. And, like, kind of weird, but there was no air conditioning, and we literally moved. It was like a cabin like this. We literally moved all of the furniture into the kitchen, and all of us slept on the floor in our boxer shorts, because that was the only cool thing was the hardwood floor in the cabin. Then we woke up the next morning and went fishing. And that lake we pounded walleyes on. I mean, we had fish every night for dinner, and then we all went home with our limit. And it memories, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, they're memories, right? But yeah, and then like I said, we had the opportunity to bring JT on this trip, and I'm like, man, there's no better guy that deserves it, you know. Been through it all. I think he's got some law enforcement under his belt too. And you know, now he's a safety director for a company and gets to enjoy life a little bit. So, and more importantly, he was on this trip with us, and he was like, hey, you know, just got a new boat. I'd love to help you guys out. So just a testimony of these guys wanting to keep giving back to their own brothers as well.
Where can we find out more about your organization?
So we have some social media outlets. We have Facebook, of course, and we have the TikTok, which I'm learning.
The TikTok.
The TikTok. 45-year-old guy trying to learn TikTok.
Nothing makes it sound more like you know what you're talking about than if you put the in front of it.
Well, typically I would say ticker talker, because I call them the ticker talker kids. I got to have my daughter come over and help me. So anyways, yeah, we have Facebook, Instagram. It's at Memories Made Outdoors, and then of course our website, memoriesmadeoutdoors.org.
Okay, very good.
Awesome.
Mike, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The new official truck sponsor of Sporting Journal Radio and Fish Hunt Forever is Invergrove Toyota. I got the new Toyota Tundra Limited this year. I love that truck. You'll see it driving around. In fact, we had a lot of people taking pictures of it last week, Lake of the Woods. I mean, I thought it looked good, but I was a little biased, but apparently some other people liked it too. And you yourself can own almost the very same truck. In fact, they got so excited, when we did this truck for us that they went out and custom built a new Toyota Tundra Limited, and it's on the showroom floor right now at Inver Grove Toyota. When you go in there, buy yourself a Toyota Tundra. They'll give you a discount if you use the code FHF. Check it out. More information at sportingjournalradio.com. All right, we also had a chance to talk to a couple of the vets while we were there, including Bill Friedland.
I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
65 to 69.
Okay.
Then I was a helicopter gunner and crew chief on a Huey helicopter.
Okay.
And then we had OV-10 Broncos along with it.
All right. Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. You've known Mike for a little while now, haven't you?
It's about 8 years now.
Okay.
Yep.
And
heck of a guy. He wants everything just nice and clean, with everything as far as everything goes. Everything he wants to do it the best.
These trips are important, aren't they?
Oh boy, big time. Yeah, it's hard to imagine, but after one of these trips, like to Canada or any place in Minnesota like that, you go and it'll take you a day or two to kind of unwind a little bit to get going, because everybody's pretty hyped up about what's happening or what their expectations was. They really don't know, but after about the third day, you can see them start to open up a little bit, or quite a bit, and for, I'd say, at least, if not all of them, 99% of them, it changes their outlook on their self, life in general. And yeah, it's something that's hard to explain. You have to experience it yourself. Even if you weren't a veteran, you could experience this and get something out of it.
Yeah, what do you suppose it is about these trips that make that happen?
It's just the where you're at has a lot to do with it. You haven't maybe been there before. I went for the first time to Canada in 2018 with Mike, and I'd never been to Canada, and that was one of my go-to lists for their, one of the things I haven't done, and it was just completely awesome. Just, you can say awesome, but that doesn't even come close to what it feels like. It just kind of humbling in a way, but the other is that the scenery is so beautiful, and the people you're around makes a lot of difference.
Yeah.
And with the people that's around Mike, and he does a good job on making sure that you're comfortable, and if you have anything that you want to talk about, when it stays there, but you got somebody to talk to. And it's just like a lot of the vets that I meet, that I met one this week now that, he was pretty shy. He didn't even want to go on the lake because he had a bad experience on the lake. I said, I'll ride with him. So we rode out 8 miles, and I said, take a deep breath. And we just had some small talk on the way out. And he made it out, and by the time we drove that 8 miles, and just small talk and hi, how are you, and this and that. And I'm a Marine. He happened to be a Marine by a chance. And by the time we got to the fish houses, he was calmed down enough to where he could relax. And then after Mike and I had talked to him for some time, that he started opening up. It's not a cure-all, by no means. There's just a lot of things that can't be fixed, but you might be able to face those that you were probably kind of hiding off a little bit, that you could. A lot of people, I look at it as a challenge. I've had a lot of ups and downs in my life, and I'm kind of a strong person myself as far as going in. And when I joined the Marine Corps, I was 22 years old, and I wanted to change my life somehow, and it did. And I wanted to fly. I couldn't fly because of my glasses. My eyes weren't good enough, but I did have the opportunity to work with helicopters I did stay in the air wing. That's what I wanted to sign up for 4 years being in the air wing, and ended up working with the Huey helicopters and the OV-10 Broncos. That's the ones we took. That's what we took overseas while they shipped over.
Riding out with another Marine, obviously being another veteran probably helped that experience, but do you think being another Marine made a big deal with that too?
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's just a connection there, or Marine to Marine or Army to Army, Navy to Navy. You have something in common. And with the Marine Corps, it just seems that when I joined, I looked at it was just an awesome thing that I wanted to do, and I wasn't awesome at the time, and it took 4 years to do that. And I still came out and did have problems, but the Marine Corps taught me a lot about respect, and hygiene. There's a lot of guys that when we went in, there's a lot of guys that didn't have a good hygiene, know how to make a bed, just simple stuff like that. And yeah.
Paris Island?
No, I went to San Diego.
San Diego, okay.
Went to San Diego. It was, we had a heavy snow in '65. And going to California, I'd never been to California before, coming from Minnesota. And we were sitting on these buckets and cleaning a clean rifle. And I was enjoying it, and the guys that were from California were complaining because it was cold, because they were sitting on their shorts and T-shirts, and I was sitting there soaking up the sun. I was on vacation. And I was always in good shape. And I used to unload beat trucks and stuff like that. Boot camp was a piece of cake to me, other than being yelled at for about 8 weeks. But when you get off the bus and look at those yellow footprints in the cement, you get out and you put your foot over theirs, and that's the beginning of. And the next step is to get your haircut.
Yeah, yeah.
Nowadays, it's different, but in '65, you went in there and it didn't make any difference what it was. You all looked the same, and you were bald-headed when you come out.
Yeah.
But that was the idea, to break you down, make everybody the same. Start from there and then build your unit from there.
Well, going back to this week, or this trip up here to Riverbend, how has the trip been here? How's the lodge been, fish house?
Oh, it's outstanding. I mean, I've been to a lot of different places, lodges, Well, Canada treated us real well. We did have a couple of different experiences that weren't real good in Minnesota, but they just weren't to the level of the expectancy of Mike and anybody else, because he looks for handicapped. A lot of people can say handicapped, but it's not really. And we've taken people in the boat that are in wheelchairs, and it's a challenge, but we get it done. But Riverbend has been outstanding. It couldn't be any better. I've never been treated that well up here. I've gone up here in the past years, and it's been okay. They take care of you, but this is very personable, and they know everybody. They're like in contact with you directly. It's not getting somebody else to tell you. Here you're talking to somebody that's the owner, and they're involved 100%.
And doing some of the cooking. How was that brisket tonight?
Oh, I'm not a brisket person, but I devoured a bunch. That was just, all meals have been, really. It's just, but brisket, I was a meat cutter for 37 years, and this was top shelf.
If we had some other veterans watch this that are out there that haven't gone on a trip like this, what would you say to them?
Go. Have the update. Go. If you have any doubts in it, they'll answer. Mike will answer any question you have. Be honest with you, and be honest with him that you can. The biggest thing is that you'll be able to. He'll get you used to the trip right away, and everything is so easy that you don't have to wonder about anything, because you ask and he'll tell you. Everything is transparent, and that's what we try to be. Like I told the gentleman that I rode out with the lake, I says, if you got something bothering you right now and it's really aching you and this and that, and I says, it all stays here. We're not a cure-all, but I says, well, something to talk about. Talk it.
Someone to talk to.
Yep. The whole trip has been fantastic, and it's been a stress on Mike, I know, because I know him, and he wants everything top shelf, because we did come from a different organization that it wasn't what he wanted, that he expected. He thought it was, but it didn't turn out, so he went out on his own, and he's making it. It's going to be a little bit tough. You raise these organizations to raise money, and everybody wants money. There isn't one that doesn't need it. But yeah, it's just to go talk to Mike. If you have any, talk to anybody. Talk to Allie or Mike, and they'll tell you exactly what they do, what to go, and if you like to be outdoors or you like to fish. For this here, you can't get any better. Plus the fact it's no cost. Everybody says, what's this going to cost me? Somebody will ask me, what's it cost? I said, nothing. In fact, if we have the funds for it, we'll buy the fishing license for you. But all the food, everything that you have, all you got to do is have the clothes to be there.
All right.
Okay.
I think that's perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Onyx party at Pheasant Fest this year is called Offline. Pheasant Fest is March 1st to the 3rd in Sioux Falls at the the Grand Rushmore Hall, Ramcota, Sioux Falls. And the Onyx Offline event is Friday night, March 1st at 9 p.m. They'll have live music. They'll have conservation discussion, a chance to win a variety of upland gear with free pull tabs, some line and kugels, and more. You can learn about the new Path program. The Dam Jammer is going to be playing live music. So Onyx's Offline event, Friday, March 1st at Pheasant Fest this year. All right, more Lake of the Woods talk when we come back. All right, we also had the chance to talk to JT Beck.
Yeah, talk about your experience with him in this organization then.
Yeah, so I first met Mike, I think it was 2019, up in Canada. Just a great guy, just very personable, and he always wants to do the best he can for others. Those that have served in the military or law enforcement, first responders. Just a great soul, great human being. He's never served himself, but his dad did, and he feels like it's one way he needs to give back. So I'm very grateful to have met him and to be on this trip. So it's been very nice.
Do you want to talk about your service at all?
Sure, I can. Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, I just retired from the Army after 26 years of service. I was a combat engineer. When I retired, I was a Command Sergeant Major, or E9. Best thing I ever did was join the Army. Even better than that was retirement, so it's been pretty awesome. A lot of awesome changes for me. I just also got a new job working for a safety big construction company over in Wisconsin, and I just ended a career with law enforcement over the last 12 years too. So a lot of good changes. Now I can just kind of relax and go do more fishing and
there you go.
Like this. So.
Well, thank you for your service in law enforcement too, because that's a tough business right now.
Absolutely.
So, as someone, as a veteran, how important are these types of trips?
When I first started looking at trips like this, I was kind of standoffish, what to expect. I think it's important because the camaraderie that we had in the service is hard to find anywhere else, especially with other civilians who don't understand what it's like to serve, or you have a brotherhood, and there's a lot of the same lingo, the same likes, dislikes, and it's a way to just kind of vent or to talk to people that have a commonality of serving in the military. So,
and doing it in a setting like hunting, fishing, being in the outdoors doesn't get much better than that, does it?
No, absolutely. And even like for me, I'm an avid fisherman, hunter, and I enjoy it and gives the opportunity to explore different places. And then also you have people on those trips that haven't fished before or catch their first sauger or northern through the ice. So it's pretty amazing for them too. So,
talk about your experience here at Riverbend.
So for me, this experience has been amazing. As soon as I walked through the door, just very pleasant people, met the owners right away. And the accommodations have been way more than I expected. Just very clean, very helpful people, talking to the guides. When you're in the fish houses, trying to help you with, maybe try this bait or this kind of technique, or they have everything ready for you. It's just very nice to come and not have to worry about doing anything. They're just going to do pretty much all the hard work for you. You just got to come and relax. And plus the food's amazing too. So.
Yeah, right? And pizza delivered to the house?
Delivered out to the ice house, yeah.
Brisket for supper.
Oh, amazing. So,
yeah.
Even the tacos, the lasagna.
And the fish, cooking up your fish.
Yeah, so we did that last night, cooked some fish up.
What do you think they're putting in that coating?
I like it because it's simple, plain. It gives you opportunity. It's not too filling, and you can actually taste the fish too.
You guys caught a few fish.
Yeah, we caught quite a few fish. I think yesterday we did better than today. Biggest fish I think was just under 18. Yesterday caught a couple of 17 today, a couple of 15, 16. So some nice eating fish, nothing too big.
Yeah.
Numbers, I probably caught about 20 fish yesterday. Today is probably closer to 15. But so decent overall.
Lots of action. You got fish to eat, and you guys are all bringing some fish home.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for a better time. So,
and everybody comes here for the walleyes, but I'm a little jealous of the fish you caught this morning.
Yeah, it wasn't me, unfortunately, but my house partner, he caught a burbot this morning. So
that's
right
awesome.
away. So we're hoping it was a big walleye, but hey, we'll take that too. A nice bonus fish. So
they will trick you.
Yeah. So we did get an opportunity to eat the fish tonight. Take the loins out and little poor man's lobster.
Yeah. Have you had that before?
I have, yeah.
Okay. That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. As long as you do it right away. Boil it in 7-Up or Sprite. And
anything else you want to say? How about if there's any veterans watching this right now that haven't done a trip like this, or maybe have thought about it, or what would you say to them?
Say, be open to an opportunity like this. It's more than just coming up here fishing. It's getting away for a couple of days. It's kind of getting out of your element, relaxing, and gives you an opportunity to meet some other veterans who have the same commonalities, but also may help you with different resources. It's a way to reconnect and learn from each other. So it's a win-win for everything. It's going to help you throughout your retirement or wherever you're at within your career. So a lot of awesome opportunities out there for stuff like this. A lot of people who have been in your situation who can also understand if you want to open up and talk about anything on the deeper level. Mm-hmm. And it's a great opportunity to do that too. So.
And it's fun.
And it's fun, yeah. Good time.
All right. Anything else you want to say?
No, I just happy to be here. And thanks for you guys being here too at the same time. It's been a pleasure meeting everyone with Igloo, and hope to see your stuff out on the market so I can see what you guys do too. So
sure. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Sporting Journal Radio is a division of Macaba LLC. If you've got a question, comment, or story idea for us, send us an email. Go to sportingjournalradio.com. While you're there, you can learn how to advertise on the show and visit our store for hats, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more. Go to sportingjournalradio.com.